critical thinking that I know it has practiced in its previous decisions. Let's get one thing straight. Planned Parenthood is not an abortion clinic. Other people have said this, but it bears repeating. It is a provider of a broad range of healthcare services for all women with compassion and without judgment. But let me say something more personal. I grew up in Brighton, and I graduated from Brighton High School. My parents moved here in 1948. I moved back here in 1979 to raise my own 2 children. At my family dinner table, I learned of my parents' ardent support for Planned Parenthood. And I learned about the values that support rested on. And again, these words have been said earlier and maybe tossed around, but I want to repeat them. Inclusion, social justice, equity, diversity, and a good quality of life for all people, insofar as that is possible. I have written my remarks on a Costco receipt, which I now have to turn over here. But I'll just speak from the heart, and that is to say, I want Planned Parenthood in my town. This is my community, and the values of our town are entirely consistent with the values of equity and justice and inclusion that Planned Parenthood represents. Those of you who are old-timers, either in the audience or on the board, are going to remember when we turned down a gated community in Brighton. We don't want gated access to health care for women either. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Stop. Thank you, Joan. Next is Emma Lee, followed by Ben. And Ben, I haven't got a prayer of saying your last name right. Okay, thank you. Is Emma here? Anyone find Emma? Her last name is Lee, Emma Lee. Certainly, certainly, yes. Is Ben here? Ben, and I apologize. May have left. Patrizio Biondo. I hope that's right also. Patrizio Biondo. How about Maura Hamilton?
Let's just give it a minute, Bill, for people to catch up with your announcements.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could be downstairs.
Could be downstairs, it could be outside.
You went to look for Emma?
Well, I was just downstairs and I was just downstairs and she wasn't there.
She's not there. Okay, she's welcome to speak if you do see her. And how about Ben? And Ben, folks, I can't even, CHERBJASKY, I believe. If I read, may have left. All right, well, and then Patrizio Biondo. Maura Hamilton. Okay. Hello, Maura. Why
don't you call the next couple names too after
And
that?
then Nay Powers and Michelle Casey. Good evening.
Hi. So I'm here to speak to the importance of putting a Planned Parenthood in our community. My name is Maura Hamilton, by the way. As a bigender and bisexual human who uses they them pronouns, I cannot put into words how seen I felt during every step of my experience with Planned Parenthood. From asking for my pronouns prior to my visit and actually using them, to asking about partners, to going above and beyond for patient privacy by asking if I wanted them to call me and what they should refer to themselves as, I felt comfortable the whole time. And this almost never happens for me in medical facilities at all. All of these people are equating Planned Parenthood equaling abortion, which equals bad. This minimizes the complexity that surrounds this issue and the other resources Planned Parenthood has. I grew up like many of these people speaking out against Planned Parenthood today, but I have taken the time to learn and educate myself, which has made me realize that it's so much more complicated than just good or bad, yes or no. If your goal is to end abortions, preventing Planned Parenthood from entering this community will do absolutely nothing towards that goal. Rich people will always be able to have safe abortions. Instead, you're removing life-saving access to not just abortions, but also gender-affirming healthcare that does not need to involve potentially abusive parents because not everyone's parents are great, reproductive health, and so many other needed services. If reducing or eliminating abortions is the goal, fine. Access to these services, but if that's the goal, access to these services should be increased, not decreased, along with increased sex education and funding for inclusive education and healthcare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mara. Appreciate you coming out. We have Nay Powers, and then Michelle Casey, and then we have had 3 other folks sign up after. Yep. Emma.
Sorry, I didn't get the phone call.
I do apologize for that. And Nay, could I ask that we let Emma speak? Okay, then you can come up after. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nay Powers. I'm here to speak standing with Planned Parenthood. I just wanted to address a couple of narratives that I've heard tonight that I just want to clear. Planned Parenthood is not an abortion clinic. According to their 2020 report, they did over 10,374,069 services in total. 52% of those were STI testing and treatment, 25% contraceptive services, 13% other women's health services, 6% cancer screenings and preventions, which saved over 75,578 women whose cancer was detected early or whose abnormalities were identified. 3% were abortion services, which totals 354,871 services, 3% in total, 1% being other services. The other narrative that I want to address is that Planned Parenthood targets and coerces Black women into getting abortions, which insinuates that Black women aren't intelligent enough to make informed decisions about their own pregnancy. That in itself is a racist narrative that ignores systemic economic disparities in Black communities that causes women to turn to Planned Parenthood because it serves those who cannot afford health care elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll continue to ask. Please don't do that. Thank you. Emma, good evening.
Hi, good evening. So I wanted to come here tonight in support of Planned Parenthood. I went to Planned Parenthood for several years for healthcare. Planned Parenthood is a healthcare facility. It is a doctor's office, and I went there for OBGYN services, and where they provided me with birth control and really knowledgeable, considerate, compassionate care. They're a service to communities. They do not take away from communities. I would also, gathering my thoughts here. I would also like to speak to the folks who say that they are pro-life, and I would like to share that if you are pro-life, I invite you to stand up for the children who are here in our community now. Not the hypothetical children that could or may not exist some point in the future for someone or not, but the children that are here now, because the children in our community need you. They need your advocacy and your willingness to come and picket for something. Like, show up for the kids in our school that are eating moldy bologna sandwiches and Slim Jims for lunch. They are children who are here now with us. We need to be showing up for those children who are living and breathing and right here, right now. There are so many different ways to do that. It's not just in the schools. The schools just got a lot of funding. Let's make sure that really goes to the kids. Because they shouldn't be eating moldy bologna for lunch. They shouldn't have had to wave goodbye to, 300 teachers? So I ask that if you are pro-life, to advocate for the people who are here now and see how their lives could be bettered rather than speaking in hypotheticals.
Thank you, Emma. I will ask again, is Ben here? He's not, okay. And Patrizio Biondo, ask again. That brings us to Michelle Casey with Taylor Haworth on deck. And then there are still two after that. Tom.
Bill. Before we get to Michelle, and then I will introduce her, I just wanted to say a couple of remarks here as well. Would like to thank everyone for all of their comments, both residential and the community-wide. A couple of issues have been brought up in regard to Westfall Medical Realty. They are not a shell company for Planned Parenthood. I have been told that they are strictly a tenant. Planned Parenthood is a proposed tenant, so Westfall Medical Realty is not a parent company or connected with Planned Parenthood. Number two was in regard to signage on the building. Signage for the entire property owned by Westfall Medical Realty. Signage is on these kiosks in front of the spaces, and that's what is proposed for this space. One other comment was in regard to parking for medical uses. The site does comply with the Town of Brighton code. The site requires 264 parking spaces. Currently, it has 271 spaces. There is also additional space on the property, green space, that could be used for additional parking if needed. So with that, I'd like to introduce Michelle Casey, CFO of Planned Parenthood. Also, Christian Olk is here as well if you have any additional comments.
Keep that up there, Tom. Hey, Tom. Good, thank you.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for your patience tonight. I'm Michelle Casey. I'm the CEO of Planned Parenthood of Central and Western New York. There's been a lot said here tonight and a lot of sensational information that has nothing to do with reality, and then a lot of heartfelt opinions. If the planning board has any additional questions that have been brought up from any of the comments this evening, we'd be glad to answer any of those that you might have. Planned Parenthood is an Article 28 licensed healthcare facility, and we are regulated and inspected by the New York State Department of Health. As was just noted, we are not the owner of the building. We are going to be a tenant here. We are not in any way associated with Westfall Medical Associates. They own the entire plaza. We're just going to be renting one part of one building. We were very upfront with the town of Brighton in our application about who was the owner and who was going to be the tenant. There was no cover-up there. There are rules that govern where protesting, religious activity, and expression, this so-called sidewalk counseling and other activities are allowed, and where they are prohibited. And this is a well-settled matter, having been established through extensive litigation and an issuance of an injunction in the United States District Court for the Western District of New York. The rules established by this litigation and injunction apply at all facilities providing reproductive health care services in the Western District of New York, which includes all of Monroe County, including the proposed facility that will be operated by us. We've given a lot of submissions to questions that you have put forth, and as we've demonstrated, we plan to comply with all the applicable town requirements related to parking, traffic control, environmental protection, and with respect to traffic levels in particular, there have been a lot of statements today about numbers of people. There's, honestly, this is we have a fixed number of exam rooms and a certain number of patients that can be seen in the day depending on what the service is. The most patients we would see in a day is 26 in an 8-hour period. That's, I have a lot of medical services in that complex area, and that's not even a tiny drop in a bucket. So, I don't think that there would be any additional traffic issues there. All of the medical waste that would be generated at the facility, which has nothing to do with, honestly, there have been a lot of really unrealistic things about what medical waste would be. But any of that would be managed in full compliance with all regulatory and requirements and applicable laws. We aren't, that is a highly regulated situation. The siting of the proposed facility is governed by the Certificate of Need process by the New York State Department of Health. Pursuant to Article 28 of the New York State Public Health Law. This process governs the establishment, ownership, construction, renovation, and change in service of diagnostic and treatment centers. This certificate of need has already been issued by the state of New York and has given us for the proposed facility as qualifying as a diagnostic and treatment center. The state of New York would come and inspect the facility to make sure it met all the construction requirements before we would open. And we are subject to ongoing, regular, and surprise inspections by the New York State Department of Health. So a lot of these things that have been said this evening are in an unbelievable realm. I would say, I'm very proud that we provide abortion services. It is not the only service that we provide, but I will tell you one thing about that. When abortion becomes less accessible, it just becomes less safe. It doesn't happen less often. People find means when they don't want to be pregnant anymore. And so I think it's, certainly within the laws of the state and our job to be able to have people have access to safe legal abortion. We don't have counter-protesters at our facilities. You are more than welcome to check with the City of Rochester Police Department. But we do call the police when the protesters are breaking the law. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your patience this evening.
Thank you. Taylor Howarth.
Hello.
Hello.
My name is Taylor Howarth. If what I'm about to say sounds redundant, it's because it's important and you should listen. I would not be the healthy and happy person that I am today if it were not for the medical care that I received at the Planned Parenthood in Greece. This facility closed in 2020 with a gratuitous nod from the Chick-fil-A across the street. So I am here to personally advocate for its necessary replacement in the form of a center here in the town of Brighton. The two things that I can say definitively are, one, that my reproductive organs are not a battlefield on which wars of moral bigotry will be won. And 2, that the philosophical personhood of an unborn child will never trump my bodily autonomy. We have an epidemic of hate speech and control over women in Rochester. You can see it firsthand in the numerous crisis pregnancy centers scattered throughout the city, where clergy folk dress in white cloaks and spare no layers of deception to manipulate and divert women away from comprehensive care. You can also see it every Saturday morning outside the Planned Parenthood on University Ave, where people of God harass and seek to instill fear and shame into women for their choices in an effort to change the course of their lives as if they are God themselves. Clearly, these people are delusional. Their arguments would never hold up in a court of law, and as a more valuable alternative, I truly hope that you prioritize and take to heart the experiences of individuals who have actually used and continue to need these services. Thank you.
Do I have to ask you to leave? Please be respectful. I've asked you not to do that. Don't act all Pollyannish. Just don't do it. Everybody here has behaved fabulously tonight. Don't ruin it. We have 2 other speakers left that have signed up, Elora Kang and then Jonathan Corey.
Hi,
Good evening.
my name is Elora Kang. I am from New York City. My mom, my sister, and my brother are doctors. Mount Sinai, Columbia University, NYU, and Lenox Hill Hospital. So pretty incredible institutions. And I had to get an abortion. And when I talked to them, they encouraged me to go to Planned Parenthood. The facility, the aftercare, which I know that there has been some remarks that a lot of the doctors there, medical professionals, don't care what happens to women, to femmes, what happens to their bodies. But that is absolutely not true. To this day, this was years ago, I am still in contact with that doctor. I also wanted to mention that, with the stigmas of abortion, there's always going to be that these women, these femmes, these people who have autonomy over their body won't be successful. I am a very successful photographer. I went to Cornell University. I worked at Cornell University. I have been published in the New York Times. And I think a lot of my strength, and I know that a lot of my strength, has came from an organization like Planned Parenthood, who gave me education, who gave me health care, and provided care. And I also want to break down one more stigma, that about pro-life, which I'm not here to say that you're wrong for what you believe in. That's not who I am. What the thing is that people who receive abortions, it is their hardest decision of their life. It is. We are not going in there. And I know it seems like I'm speaking on behalf of so many people, but I've been to so many support groups, and not one person is excited about this. This is one of the most heartbreaking procedures, but it's a choice that we make because we will be able to make that choice for the rest of our life. But it's not easy. Nobody's happy. It's something that we consider every single day. So I don't want people to think just because you are making a choice for your body and women want to make choices for their bodies, that means that they are somehow pro-abortion. We just want to be able to make choices for our bodies. And I really hope, I'm sure some of you have daughters around my age. I really hope you take that into consideration. And the last thing I want to say is that I'm adopted. I'm adopted from South Korea. And the thing about that is that that abortions in South Korea have been illegal up until 2019, and the abortion rate now and compared was progressively high when it was illegal. And there were far more deaths in South Korea because of that. My partner grew up in Brighton. His whole family grew up in Brighton. And when he heard that this was happening, Matthew O'Brien, he was devastated. Not because he's raging, it's because people should have the choices of their own body. Thank you.
Is Jonathan, I'm going to say Corey? Good evening.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jonathan Khoury. I am Palestinian. I grew up in Oklahoma. I've been in Brighton now for just a couple of years. I teach math and physics at the Rochester Institute of Technology. So I'm just here to share a little bit of experience about what it was like growing up in Oklahoma. We have a total of 3 Planned Parenthoods in our entire state. We are also leading 4th in teen pregnancies in the entire nation. So it is important that it has been disclosed already. Planned Parenthood offers a wide range of services beyond that of abortion, education, contraception being some of them. I am also a queer person, so I identify within the LGBTQ population. And queer male-bodied individuals are 17 times more likely to contract and spread STIs than non-queer male-bodied people. So just some numbers of the spread of those STIs in Oklahoma versus that in New York. Again, a place that advocates it and actually funds those services and that education. In Oklahoma, for every 100,000 people, 559 contract chlamydia per year. In New York, 604, so they're very close with one another. 229 spread gonorrhea or contract gonorrhea, while 188 in New York. So less here in New York. While the queer population here in New York is estimated to be about 1.2 million, and in Oklahoma is 28,000. So those are pretty staggering numbers, and it's pretty clear that Planned Parenthood has an opportunity to help a population of people that could very much need it. So that's all I really have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. That, at this point, is the list of speakers who signed up. I will ask, is there anyone that has not had an opportunity to speak that wishes to do so? Anybody outside? Anybody else downstairs?
Everett, anyone?
Everett, do you see anybody?
No one downstairs?
Bill, I'd like to put something on the record as part of the public hearing.
Go ahead, Ken.
Thank you. So I know the board has heard a lot of commentary this evening on this project. I just want to put on the record for the public hearing a few remarks. There's been remarks from speakers regarding this board's need to consider the zoning or rezoning of this site. I don't think I need to tell you this, but that's not before you. Zoning, rezoning, variances that isn't within the jurisdiction of this board and is not required for this project as it is being proposed for a site which is zoned properly for this medical use. There's been some suggestion that the use proposed is in some way an adult use. Our code defines what is an adult use. This use is not an adult use under our code. And lastly, what is before this board, as you know, is site plan approval. And the factors to be considered, despite what many of the speakers said might be factors, the factors are defined under the code, and I just ask this board to make sure that we follow those factors set forth in Town Code Section 217.12, Subdivision C. That's what we're following, that's what we'll be considering tonight, and that's what your job is the board, as you enter your deliberations later this evening.
Ken, I would also like that there's an application for the demolition of the building down to the foundation.
Correct, and we would find the factors to be considered for that under Article 73 of the Town Code for the demolition of the building. So it is demolition plan approval, you're correct, Ramsey, and site plan approval. That's all I had. Thank you, Bill.
Okay,
Thank you, Ken.
thank you. All right. We do have other matters. I would ask the board if there is a motion to close the public hearing at this point for this application.
I'll
That would
move
be-
that we close the public hearing.
I'll second.
Motion,
Hold on, give me a second, folks. Osowski moved.
Osowski moves, seconded by Babcock Steiner.
Yep.
Hearing closed the hearing.
Okay,
Altman?
please.
Price,
Aye.
Babcock Steiner,
Aye.
Osowski.
Aye.
Hearing is closed.
Okay. To everyone who is here and choosing to leave at this point, on behalf of this board, I wish to thank everybody for participating, and I truly appreciate the demeanor and calm attitude that everybody displayed in presenting arguments on both sides of a very passionate issue. So thank you all. And please consider participating in other matters as well in the future. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, our next application tonight is application 7P01-21, the application of 150 Metro Park LLC for preliminary and final site plan approval, conditional use approval for a 9,000 square foot pole barn. Oh, my apologies, let's postpone. I managed to get all the way to the bottom before I read that part.
And that's a never mind.
Okay, all right. Then we have the application of, which is 7P0221, Tom Fantuzo, owner for final site plan approval for a 600 square foot addition at 2041 South Clinton Avenue. Good evening.
Just a point of clarification, and Ramsey or Bill, I'm not sure who can provide this. There are two applications on relative to this project. Are we?
That's right. We're
Are
gonna
we
be
holding
hearing-
these public hearings together?
Yes, both of them. So it should be, the application is 7P0221 combined with the application 5PNB221, or combined, preliminary and final applications are combined.
All right, thank you for the clarification. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
Good evening.
I'm Tom Fantuzo, the owner. Yeah, we're just looking for final approval on the addition. I mean, we've gone through all the variances and.
You did get you
Yep.
secured the
So we
variances.
got both the variances. Yep, we're just looking for final on this. We got the parking reduction and the offset, that was all approved. Everything was,
Okay, so
Not using a dumpster?
I'm sorry?
Not using a dumpster?
Not at the moment.
Because if you do, you will need to enclose it.
I did read that,
Okay.
so that would be a plan of doing that, if we did it.
And then the Conservation Board asked you to consider planting a couple of deciduous trees. Do you have a problem with that? or-
No, we don't have any problems with it. Like I told them in the past that, I want to make the site look, and I have no problems with more trees. I'm not going to put a ton of them in there. I don't want to hide the building, but we'll add some in the front. Sure.
Do I have any other questions myself?
Okay. As far as, we're not looking at anything that's different than the last time you were here.
Yeah. This is,
No, it's just a matter of just variances.
You just got
Yeah,
your
I mean,
variances, we're all, okay.
exactly.
No, I
So,
think you're in good
yeah,
shape.
we appreciate it if,
All right,
yeah.
Sorry it took so long.
all right. Questions from the board?
About lighting of the parking, will that be provided?
There is some currently, but we probably will be lighting more, but not a lot. I mean, there's some on the building.
Right.
We don't run after hours. We're only there till 5:30 at night. And we're medical, so we only stick between 9 and 5:30. So there's no nighttime, actually, business going
Your
on.
operation doesn't.
No, and we're only open on Saturdays till 3 in the afternoon, and Sundays we're closed.
Is it fair to say that if you did any additional lighting, it might be with something like a lamp post
It'll be minimal.
or
Yeah, it won't be
building
crazy.
mounted?
Yes, there was one out by the street. It needed to be replaced. We didn't. We took it down for now. It was on a flower plot out by the front.
I remember it, yeah.
Yeah, so, no, there's some on the building that shine into the parking lot. There's one on each corner of the building shining down. It lights up pretty
If
good.
you would just make sure, Tom, and Mike, would you just make sure there's cutoff on those fixtures so that they don't shine off the site or provide glare that might hinder the police from, being able to see into
Sure,
the site?
sure, yeah, they're not glaring.
Okay.
They just light up the
Propose to do some
parking.
lighting, just check in with us and we'll tell you that it's okay.
Okay, yeah, sure.
All right. Everybody's good with questions? What about you down there? Okay. All right, thank you. If you leave your drawing up, looking at the audience, I'm going to ask if anybody cares to speak or has comment about this application. All right, thank you. Could I have a motion to close the public hearing on this application?
I move to close the public hearing on this application.
I'll second.
Ramsey, I know we're doing things a tad out of order on you.
And who seconded it? I gotta always have my paper in front of Babcock's. Okay. Member Price,
Aye.
Altman,
Aye.
Bobcat Steiner,
Aye.
Sowski.
Aye.
Hearing is closed.
All right, thank you. The rest of our deliberations will be after the other public hearings. Our next application is 7P03, Nick Leonardo for Epod Woodlot permit approval to remove brush, ground debris, stumps, and deadfall at 8851 Clover Street.
Nick,
We meet in person, we meet face to face.
oh, I thought we have. It's been 3 years. I didn't think I'd be back here.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Nick Leonardo. I've met most of you before. I thought our engineer would be here or the landscape architect, but I don't know where they are. So, but essentially what we're proposing is that we have an area disturbance which we've maintained inside our orange fencing. And I have some photos. I'm going to pass these out if that's okay. That's fine.
A few things I hadn't.
Yeah, they're all different. If you want to take a look. So, making sure we're following all the rules and everything. We want to go outside the area disturbance to clean up all the brush. The existing land cover is very scattered. There's no grass, there's nothing really. So all we're proposing is to clean it up and do a lawn installation and remove all the trees that are on the ground that are dead. We're not proposing any more trees or shrubs. There really is no shrubs. We're just proposing putting in a lawn, I guess, at this point, outside of our area disturbance. I don't believe there's any additional grading, any major grading changes or anything that's not already on the plan. But Greg, if he was here, he would probably be able to explain that better than me. But you can see a lot of the dead trees on the ground, and the continuity of the ground is very, there's almost a trench right now in between the orange fence and outside the orange fence because the way the land cover is.
All right. Nick, have you been following the rules?
Well, we did take down one tree by mistake or two. And we have to put more up, I guess, but that was an oversight from the excavator because we weren't out there, but.
Are those
Okay,
trees-
you see-
Are the trees shown on the plans? Because I was finding the plans to be kind of confusing of what was originally proposed, what were you asking to modify, what trees are going to remain, and what trees are planning, including the trees that you're supposed to replant as restitution for the violation.
Right, so there's no additional trees coming down at this point that were not on the original approved plan. We did add the 37, I believe it was 37 trees on the new plan to satisfy the town. The trees that have to be planted in addition, I think are up to the town's discretion because there was 2-inch saplings that got taken down that weren't supposed to. And I talked to Mike Guyon and Everett, and we were all out there, and I asked them, where do you guys want these? Because they have to go back in the town right away. And they said, they'll get back to me.
No, I sent you a letter. I was supposed to approve them. They need to be on the plans, and this board could approve them as part of this process.
Well, these are outside of our property. These are town trees.
There were some of your trees that
Yeah, I
you
think
found that you have to plant.
2 additional.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want to show those trees on the plan. I also looked at the landscaping plan has seemed to change. I was having trouble understanding the plans.
Yeah, we got a different landscape architect from a company who was originally going to do our actual landscape, and they took the same trees, they put a tree list together, they moved the trees around to make them, I guess, I don't know, better placement based on where the house is. Now they went out and took pictures of everything. I didn't know that we had to put these 2 additional trees on this plan because we weren't coming here for that. We were coming here to talk about outside of the area disturbance. No one told me anything about those 2 trees that we took down being on this new site
Well, we
plan.
just need to know everything.
Oh, we can. That's
The
not a
other
problem at all.
question I have is, what are you planning to do with the rocks?
That's up for debate. That's another thing that we I talked to Everett about. We could haul them off. We'd prefer to keep them on site. And I know the town was out there. Everett and Mike were out there. We were looking in the town right away and maybe putting a couple on the town right away to alleviate foot traffic. And we're not opposed to doing that. I think the neighbors may have some objections, but I guess it's not safe apparently. So, and we could show that on a site plan. Again, I don't know if that's necessarily affecting the engineering or of any kind, having a rock, landscaping rock.
The next thing I have, and this is up for the consideration of the board, if you want to have a perimeter of 10, 20 feet preserved.
We did receive a letter from a neighbor, just kind of concerned that, what you might be looking for is a kind of a manicured look right out to the edges of the property that is not what, we are trying to do with the, I think we had this conversation way back when you first started, that, you tried to make the argument of, being consistent with the neighborhood, but what Epods, try to do is maintain as much of the habitat benefits as we can. So I would encourage you to look at working with your landscape architect in the firm to consider maybe a different type of grass that you plant at the perimeter that is allowed to grow a little bit higher and isn't something that you mow on a regular basis. It could be wildflower mixes or these other types of seed mix that does provide habitat, but you don't have to mow it, and it would give some of that habitat benefit that has been a little bit lost, but then gives you, the manicured look, at least, around the property, around the house itself.
Yeah, I mean, so my only question is, like in the town code, it says that landscaping and lawn care is completely exempt from Epod. So I don't understand if it is exempt, then why does it matter what kind of grass I plant?
Well, for that matter,
Because you're
why does,
clearing the
why
brush
don't?
of the Epod. If you leave the
But
Epod,
there-
you have the right to maintain it.
There's no brush though, there's just dirt. That's,
Yeah, this is, yeah.
So I'm a little concerned because it seems like every time you come in front of us, you're asking for a little bit more and a little bit more. This is an Epod, an Environmental Protection Overlay District. It's not a big flat lawn. And again, every time you've come in front of us, you're asking for a little bit more and where does that stop?
Well-
At what point does this Epod get to be an Epod? I mean, if we're not gonna have an Epod, then we're just gonna do away with it.
well, we're not talking about removing big giant bushes. We're talking about removing dirt. I mean, if you look at the photos, most of the stuff in those photos is mulch and dirt. There's no shrubs, there's no really anything. I mean, when I came back here the first time, we asked to remove dead trees. Out of the 120 trees, we removed 70 dead trees. There's still probably 30 dead trees on that lot that were not in the original site plan that are outside the area disturbance. We didn't ask to take any of those trees down. What I'm asking is to remove fallen trees and 4-leaf clovers. That's what's out there, and dirt, and put in grass, because there's no green space. The town right-of-way is fully dirt. There's no green space on the town right-of-way whatsoever, and it's been like that since before we started the project. I mean, I'm trying to add more trees, more shrubs, more bushes, and more greenery. There's nothing out there. If
But are you, you know, we fear you're trying to go full width, full depth of your property with mowed lawn.
Yeah, I mean, if the town wants to see, like you said, like maybe a taller grass on a perimeter, but I mean, right now, inside the area disturbance, that perimeter we have, we're not even remotely near the edges of the property, not even close. I mean, I probably got 40, 50 feet before we get to the edge of the property.
I would want to see a much more detailed landscape plan before I would be willing to concede just, yeah, go ahead and plant some grass.
But again, I just want to say this.
What's that?
What he may be able to do is take the rocks too that he has on site.
Mhm. They look great.
Delineate that area that he should just leave alone and have forage for
If
the
we
well.
can get a plan that shows what areas, what grasses are going to go in, what's going to be delineated and saved in there, that's one thing. But right now, I don't really see that.
But I do want to know where in the town code it says I can't decide what grass I put on my lawn. There's not, it literally says there's an exemption on landscaping. It's in the town code, including shrub removal, dead tree removal. Like, shouldn't even have to be here for this part of it, based on the code. I read it.
You're welcome to challenge the interpretation of me.
Yeah.
Attack the zoning board if you like.
Well, I'm not saying it's not an Epod district.
No, that's what you can do.
No, I know.
I just want to be real clear to you.
Yeah, I'm not.
Not something I want to argue with you.
Sure. I'm not saying this is not an Epod district. It just says that landscaping in an Epod it's exempt from a permit.
Okay. We'll be tabling this tonight for further discussion. Clearly, there's a disconnect between your understanding of what an Epod is and digging to try and find some way to get the landscape that you want, not the Epod that we want this to be. So we're trying to marry the two.
Yeah, I'm
and
open to ideas.
You're finding arguments and you're coming back here multiple times. I really hope you don't violate anything any further. Kind of disappointed in this. You came in with all kinds of, I'm going to be a good citizen, a good neighbor. I've lost faith in your ability to do that. So we're going to give you some conditions that you'll have to comply with, and you'll be back here again next month.
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine with me. I'm just going based on
Yeah,
what's in the
Thank
code.
you very much. And make sure you have a landscape architect with you next time. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody that wishes to address this matter? Okay, moving on. Actually, that is I apologize, that is our last public hearing, and I do want to have a vote to table the application of Nicholas Leonardo.
Do we want to deliberate later when we do the
Well,
deliberation?
we've been closing the hearings, and, but if we'll wait till later, Ramsey.
Ken, do you want him to?
Yeah, I think for consistency's sake, either we close the public hearing or we table the matter to the next meeting. I think Bill's idea is right on point.
Okay, so no one needs to make a motion to table.
Somebody would need to
and
make a motion to table.
Have you gone through all the requirements, and are you comfortable with that?
I move to table the application of Nicholas Leonardo, which is number 7P0321, based on testimony given and the conditions in the staff report for the applicant to consider and respond to.
I'll second.
That was a motion by Price, second by
Babcock
Steiner. Altman?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Babcock Steiner?
Aye.
Osowski?
Aye.
Matter is tabled.
This is application 7PNB1-21. This is 1950 to 1966 Monroe Avenue. LLC is the owner for concept review to redevelop an existing non-conforming gas station located at 1950 and 1966 Monroe Avenue. Good evening.
Good evening. Yep, it's still evening. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Jerry Goldman. I'm the attorney and agent for PEM LLC, who is the owner and developer of the former mobile station located at the corner of Monroe and Elmwood Avenues. With me tonight on the application is John Sharaba from Lantec, who is the project engineer. We were before the board for a concept review, I believe it was a couple of months ago, may have been 3 months ago, to discuss concept review for this particular corner. I'll give you a very brief orientation. I know it's been a long night. Try not to be redundant. The property that we're talking about is comprised of two parcels. The existing mobile station parcel is located right at the corner of Monroe and Elmwood. And the developer has acquired a property which contains a hairdresser currently right behind it on the Monroe Avenue frontage. We appeared before the board and discussed a number of concept alternatives with regard to the site and have evaluated them strongly and evaluated them the best that we could to try to conform with the code as well as the desires of the planning board relative to the site. One of the alternatives, and I'll cut right to the chase, would be to try to place the building closer to the intersection and to put the gas pumps behind the site. However, this property is located in the BF1 neighborhood zoning district, and gas stations are not a permitted use in that district. Therefore, we've been informed by town staff that we cannot breach this line with the gas station operation on this particular site without having to seek a use variance, which we've discussed and reviewed with town staff, and we have reached a conclusion which I believe is the right conclusion, which would be unattainable from a legal point of view. We wanted to move it up front. It's not something that we can do and be able to redevelop this corner. As a Brighton resident, I live at 59 Branchwood Lane. I know many of you live within the central Brighton area and relatively close to the site. I've always looked forward to the time when this mobile station would be redeveloped, and the Quickleys people are, I believe, the right people to do it. I'll talk a little bit about the site plan and what we have done relative to it and what we are prepared to do. What we have done primarily is to One, decrease the amount of nonconformity on the site in a number of different ways. For example, right now, our impervious lot coverage is approximately 92.4%. We are reducing it under the code level of 65% to 63.8% on this site. So we do have ample green areas, and unlike some site plans that you may see, it's actually quality green space. It is along the frontage of both Monroe and Elmwood. Our site plan at this point does not depict a detailed landscape plan. We are here for concept, but we are prepared to take this front area and to be as creative as the board wants us to be, to create essentially what could be almost a pocket park in that small area along the frontage, but again, try to create something which will create the urban streetscape, or at least simulate the urban streetscape that all of us desire for this particular area. We have also gone so far as to try to minimize the amount of relief that we need from the Zoning Board of Appeals. One item of relief that we need from the Zoning Board of Appeals is an interpretation that we are more conforming or less non-conforming. It's a difficult concept at 11 o'clock at night, because what we are trying to do is take a gas station with a repair facility, which is not permitted. A repair facility is not permitted in the zoning district, and replace it with a convenience store, which is a permitted use in the district. However, our definition under the Brighton Code for a convenience store is that gasoline shall not be sold. But since we would be less non-conforming, the zoning board has the authority to be able to grant that interpretation, that relief, and we will be requesting that relief from the zoning board. In addition, we have minimized to the maximum extent that we could the variances which are necessary, and frankly, we're down to 5, which under our code on a site this size was a pretty ambitious undertaking in our part. The variances that we need are, one, along the Monroe Avenue frontage is the dominant frontage, because that is the shorter of the two by a couple of feet. So this is considered our front setback, which is 20 feet, which essentially is kind of what we want to accomplish, and that is to bring it toward the street anyway. But the code really doesn't allow that or call for that in pure numbers. In addition, this is considered to be a side setback, and we have an 11-foot setback in this area. Any canopy is likely going to require relief, and this canopy is going to require 2 items of relief. One for the canopy location, and second for canopy, well, 3. One for the canopy size, and the setback is essentially the same as it was before. So we'll be applying for it, but we'll see whether in fact a variance will be necessary for that. One thing that we were very happy with is that we have the ability to have this be fully walkable for pedestrians without having to traverse the parking area. We show the sidewalk connection on Monroe Avenue, and in fact, we have the ability to bring a sidewalk in from Elmwood, so that anybody who comes from literally any direction can get to the main building without the necessity of having to cross a parking area, which is a big deal for all of us in terms of design and trying to establish this as a community use and one which would be well accepted within the community. Another thing that we have to display, and as part of the application materials that you have, is our architectural elevations for the site. We do have an area which does have a 2-story look to it on the building. Again, an urbanism concept in terms of the design itself. Our efforts are primarily designed to, 1, minimize the relief that we need under the existing code, and as I said before, 2, to try to incorporate some of the desires as expressed by the planning board at the last meeting. You got a code to work with, and that's what we're trying to do. So with that, and given the hour, we'll stop now. We would appreciate receiving any input we can from the board. Our objective, if we can get there, would be in your deliberations to achieve some sort of consensus if the variances are something that this board can support in terms of its view of the site plan. So with that, John, I'm preemptive, I'm sorry.
I really have nothing to add other than that we look forward to preparing more detailed plans in the future that meet your guidelines. So I know it's been a drastic change from the plan you saw previously, so I'm ready to take notes and move forward in that direction.
All right, thank you. Typically, same as last time with concept review, we tend to give you each of our own opinions on this, and they may align, they may not. I will try to recap at the end what the significant points are, so that you have hopefully some clearer direction as you go back and move a little closer toward a preliminary and final application. Jason, do you?
I like it. You guys are working under constraints. It's a vast improvement on what is there. I do like the idea of a sidewalk connection to Elmwood. I love the idea of having that as like a little, not necessarily a pocket park, but an area in the corner that maybe has some trees you can go sit under or something. I'd leave that up to the landscape architects to figure out, what that is. But I like it. I mean, yeah, ideally maybe it would be moved around a little differently, but.
We appreciate the comments. One thing we don't lack in our area are landscape architects. So we'll be sure to be working on that before making our formal submission.
However, we're in trouble when the attorney knows the terms walkable and urban streetscape.
Scary, isn't it?
Truly scary. I'm staying out of your realm. You.
Oh, that
You know the buzzwords around.
it's relatively novel for people not to play attorney. Yeah, I want you to know that.
He also carries the scale with him.
Both architects and engineers.
John, do you have?
No, I would like to reiterate what Jason said about the sidewalk connection to Elmwood, and understanding the constraints you're working under and trying to minimize, what your variances are you have to ask for. Okay.
Thank you.
I also agree with the importance of that sidewalk connection that my colleagues have just also stated. And I was one who really liked the idea of the building being pushed to the corner from one of the, one of the original concepts that you had in. So anything that you can come up with that sort of creates that urban streetscape, I would be very interested in hearing more ideas about, I guess.
We're at a very minimum in terms of pushing this forward in terms of impervious around this area. And again, we want to provide as generous amount of green space in that area as we possibly could. So we were listening to it. We're trying to get as close as we can get to moving that building closer to the corner, but understand right now we're operating with variances for these buildings. So,
just one more thing real
yes.
quick. I did also like the concept of the kind of that second story up close to the street front, because I do think that helps to kind of build that wall there.
Right. Munner Avenue, we've got kind of the urban streetscape with this piece of building over here. Do I keep on flipping too fast?
No,
Oh, you're killing me.
Okay.
Your urban.
Before you know it, Richie and Fromberg are going to start rattling off Latin names of trees, and
that I can't do.
No, won't know what to do.
Just giving you a hard time, Jerry. Look at
Okay, I think you're seeing a little bit of consensus. A little disappointed that after 60 years plus of waiting for this to redevelop, But I think, moving it further up, as in one of the prior schemes that we were presented, really offered probably a little better solution than this one, but understanding the conditions of the code and the lift that it would take on the concept of a use variance it's probably better to get the best that we can and work with you to create something that does provide activity at the street, which is on the corners and the front of the building on the Monroe Avenue side. I saw the elevation implied at least a fenced-in area, maybe where people have a chance to sit, and just seeing people in the windows, seeing people on the street is a entirely different concept than we have been used to for a very, very long time with the buildings and the surface parking that have been there. I think we do have to get into the nitty gritty and get the triangular piece up front and the piece in front of the building blown up to larger scales, actually smaller scales, but get into the details of those and the facades and heights. And your canopy in the rendering might have looked a little bit low, but that's fine. I mean, I think we'll get at it. Yeah, I mean, the amount of curb cut that you're closing down, still a lot of benefits to it. Jerry, I just have one question. Is the green space up on the Elmwood Avenue side to the, I guess would be the upper right of the thing? Yeah. Is that part of the parcel? Or it is? Okay. All right. I mean, that's not a small area to sneeze at. That is also a fairly substantial green space that we can take advantage of.
Work with, yeah.
Challenge a little bit with the dumpster area.
Sure. Yeah, you may have to run some truck turning and figure out if it needs to be angled or not. But I think all of your elements are there and they're all oriented pretty well.
Bill?
Oh, here we go.
Oh, here we go.
Well, if Jerry's going to play planner.
Okay.
No, landscape architect.
Oh, well. So since we're in concept review and since, we're that early in the process, here's a concept that I'd like you to review with your client. And that concept is, gasoline pumps, passé. So if you got rid of your gasoline pumps, you could put that building on the corner and you wouldn't have to push it back. So would your client would Quickly's consider developing a convenience store for that corner that goes on the corner of that lot and not install fuel pumps?
We can review that with them. It certainly is not their business model. I mean, they started out as a gas station exclusively, and they do run gas stations exclusively. But certainly it can be reviewed. I mean, I can tell you this, we do have, to my mind, Brighton resident, a dearth of existing gas stations, and I know we don't want to encourage them. So I think that working with the ones that we have has some real benefit. If in fact this does become totally passé to the extent that it's not utilitarian, then maybe we could talk about putting another building on the corner, and by that time the codes may change so that we don't have setbacks, so we don't have setback issues anymore. If we think we have setback issues now, if we were to put this building in the corner, we would be talking about area variances galore in addition to everything else we're talking about. So
it's just that I think I know that it's the canopies and the pumps that are driving your building to where it is. And if we eliminated the canopies and the pumps, we'd have a different situation altogether. And so before you come back with the finals, it just would be interesting to know the answer to that, if Quickly's might think about doing that. Because I think that is the direction of the industry. I think truly, convenience stores with gas pumps are, sort of very 20th century.
I'm not seeing that many, well, I'm not going to debate the point. I will take it back to our client.
That's all I'm asking.
And we'll review it with them. And report back.
You doing? Okay. All right. You feel comfortable? You have
I felt better before Ken started talking, but that's okay.
Ain't that always the
If we
case?
can be informal and colloquial, I'm going to be informal and colloquial too. Nonetheless, I do appreciate the input from the board members. Again, I know it's late, so we'll let you go, and we appreciate not having to wait to the end of deliberations to hear the discussion.
all right. Thank you. Have a
Good night.
Off the record, I do miss the 1990s era gold Volvo station wagon that was always parked there along Elmwood Avenue.
We'll see if we can bring back the Red Horse Derby from Mobile, if you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It was a long time ago. Thank you.
Bill, should we do decisions?
Is this a record breaker? Did we hit?
Not yet. No, we haven't.
Whole Foods sometimes.
Whole Foods went pretty late. All right.
Well, we have more to do, but we don't take the
Decisions?
I'm just saying you can rest your fingers.
Sorry, what's that, Ken?
And I'm just saying she can rest her fingers for
Yes,
part of this.
yes.
So just like
We're gonna have signs, there's gonna be a few more things, but right now we're gonna make some decisions. But you don't need to record the decision that they.
Makes me uncomfortable.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. All right. We got people here. We want to
All
get these
right.
guys out, and then we'll go
Why don't
back
we-
to the advisory report and then signs.
Advisory report?
On 5G. It's on the agenda.
The stuff they're injecting us with.
Oh, yeah, that stuff is.
It's one step at a time, folks. Look on their faces.
Okay, all right.
No,
Review and prepare advisory report for
we have to accept that responsibility.
proposed local
and set
law
up public
wireless
hearings,
facility.
right? Or we're
All right.
going through the whole.
Ramsey, is the language in here?
Sorry. What's that?
Is your language, your draft in here?
No, I was going to talk to you guys about it.
All right.
Let's do the decisions. I just wanted to get a.
Do the decisions and then we'll go to that?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
because these guys can all go home.
All right, let's go back to the beginning of the agenda. And we've closed the public hearing on application 6P02-21, application of Westfall Medical Realty LLC. And we would be looking for, do you want a separate approval motion on demolition review, or do you want them together?
Yes, you
Separate?
could do a separate
right.
motion on the demolition.
All right. All right, is there a motion?
Sorry, Ken, go ahead.
What are you doing? Are you doing a separate demolition motion, a separate?
I was going to make the findings on the demolition.
Yeah.
Then they can go into the seeker and make a definition.
Yeah, I just don't want to leave out the seeker part.
That's it.
Yeah, then we do seeker, and then you can take up the demolition and the site plan at the same time as a decision.
All right, do we have a motion on the demolition review and approval?
There are findings per Chapter 73 that you have to consider, that I have drafted up for you.
All right, let's see.
Demolition.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
All right, thank you.
Ready?
Or,
You're on.
I move that the planning board adopts the, let's see, how many? 10 findings outlined in the planning board report based on the application submitted, testimony presented, and the determinations, comments, and recommendations of the Historic Preservation Commission, Architectural Review Board, and Conservation Board for application number 6P0221.
I'll second.
Second by Price.
And just to clarify, this is a motion for approval of the demolition.
To adopt the findings.
Of demolition.
Right, but just relative to demolition.
Relative to demolition.
I didn't hear that. Maybe he said it.
First thing he
I may not have.
It was the first thing he said? Okay.
Do you want me to do it again?
I just want to make sure that Member Babcock Steiner, who made the motion, is limiting this motion to the findings for the demolition portion of the application only, and that, was it Member Altman who seconded?
No,
it was
me.
Price.
Was Member Price who seconded, also agrees to that provision?
I agree.
I agree.
Okay, great, then we're good.
All right, moved and seconded. Do you want to call the roll, or do you? Yeah.
Member Osowski.
Aye.
Babcock Steiner.
Aye.
Price.
Aye.
Altman.
Aye.
Now,
Okay, that brings us to a decision on this. Does anyone have a motion?
What we need to do.
I'll move that the planning board finds that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and that the planning board adopts the negative declaration prepared by town staff. I'll also move that the planning board approves application 6P0221 based on testimony given, plans submitted, 28 conditions outlined in the planning board report.
I'll second.
second by Price.
Yes.
Do we need to include the demolition in that too?
We already approved it.
It's for site plan and demolition.
Oh, it was for site plan and demo? All right, I didn't hear that.
John, did you want that motion read back?
Yeah, well, yeah, we need
Just to
to,
make sure we got the demolition, could you read that back? Just to make sure we covered everything. Member Osowski? Just what he just said, it was what it was towards the end.
I didn't say demolition.
What's it? What's the question? The question was, he did the seeker, I just wanted to make sure it was for demolition and site plan approval.
I didn't say demolition.
That's why I was wondering if.
He just said, he just referred to the application generically.
Okay, is that all right? Okay, let's do the motion, she didn't get it.
Yeah, John, why don't you do the, start from the top and make your motion again.
Okay, it was a fine motion, John, sorry.
So what am I talking, the seeker or the?
Yeah,
Let's start from the beginning.
From the beginning.
I'm using your
Yes, no, you were fine.
Yours was fine, it's just that she didn't get it down, that's all.
Oh. I did not mention demolition anywhere, was I supposed
No,
to?
you can say the application is
No,
fine.
he
Okay.
referred simply to the application number, which is fine.
Okay, I'll move that the planning board finds that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and that the planning board adopts the negative declaration prepared by town staff. This is for application 6P0221. Okay, and I will move that the planning board approves application 6P0221 based on the testimony given, plans submitted, and the 28 conditions outlined in the planning board report.
I'll second.
Yep, I think that's it. And that was second by Member Price.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Please call the roll.
Ready for the roll call? Ready? Altman?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Babcock Steiner?
Aye.
Osowski?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. That brings us,
2041 South Clinton Avenue.
yes, application 7P02-21, application of Thomas Fantuzo for final site plan approval at 2041 South Clinton Avenue. We have already closed the hearing. Is there a motion on the final site plan approval?
Well, this is the double one, right? Is this, are we doing the,
This is the double, oh, I'm sorry, yeah, so,
We
again,
did the public hearing together.
Yes, it's-
I don't care if you want to do the motions together or separate, that's up to you.
No, you could do the motion together, just reference both applications.
Yes.
Applications,
And then-
5P MB 221, 7P 0221 are the applications.
page 12, okay. All right, so I move the planning board finds that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and that the planning board adopts a negative. Slower? Yeah, take this down, yeah. I move that the planning board finds that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and that the planning board adopts the negative declaration prepared by town staff. I also move that the that's the way that the public hearing is closed. The planning board approves applications 7P0221 and 5P NB221 based on the testimony given, plans submitted, and with the 21 conditions outlined in the planning board report.
The last word was report.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second.
That was Price.
All right, moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the applications? Please call the roll.
Altman?
Aye.
Price?
Aye.
Babcock Steiner?
Aye.
Osowski?
Aye.
All right. Good night.
Dick Clover Street, okay. Now, 5G.
I know that one, yeah, 'cause we closed
What's
that.
happening is that the Telecommunication Act, a number of years ago, was amended.
Ramsey, you got to talk into your mic. I can barely hear you. And do you need the stenographer to be taking this down?
What's that?
You need her to be taking this?
Yes, I would have her take her
Want
down.
to take this down?
Yep.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, it's up to you if you don't want her to.
Just talking to the mic then.
Okay. The Telecommunication Act was amended again, largely for 5G. Our regulations were outdated. They did not address 5G. What's happening with 5G is that the federal government really gave us very little say in what we can do with the 5G installations. To be real honest with you, that they are going to be putting poles in the neighborhoods. So there's going to be that balance of people wanting 5G but not wanting having the poles in their neighborhoods. With that concern, and that we were not in compliance with the federal laws, we did hire a consultant to relook at our telecommunication laws and to look at it and redraft it to address what's called small cells, which is 5G in our code. We also prepared design regulations. They're not the strongest regulations because the federal government has really given us very little power of what we can do. We did do design regulations that will impact this board. There is going to be a process where you're going to get involved when they come in. You're not going to have the powers that you normally would have. I'm being real honest with you. Got an attorney, I think it was out of Pittsburgh, that's done this before. They're experts in the field. They've helped us prepare these regulations. So you have two things. There's the code amendments of the regulations addressing the Telecommunication Act, and we also have the design manuals to give us guidance about what we can or cannot do. What we were concerned of is that we'd give people false expectations of what we could do. We were very careful not to do that. And I'll be honest with you, when we first start doing it, it's not going to be a lot of fun. But we're going to have to educate people about the laws and what our limits are.
Very similar to the previous. I mean, we didn't have much control over cell.
You're going to have less
even
now.
Even less now?
Yes. Yeah, it's less. And the other thing is, they're very restrictive about the fees we can get and what we can charge. The other thing is that when they wrote it so that they would have rights and towns could not stop them from going in their right-of-ways. Reason doing that is that they don't want to have to go negotiate easements. They're telling them you have the right to be in the rights-of-way. So they're taking the town's public land and making it available to further 5G. And that's really what's going on. They're pushing it into the right-of-ways, and they're telling us you have to allow them like any other utility. And really making it less for us to be able to control such things as heights. We have things in those regulations that talk about how much the heights can be, but they're going to be taller than what you see in the neighborhoods. The problem that you get with it and the technology is that we have a lot of trees. The more tree canopy you have, the more poles we're going to find in some of these neighborhoods. I will tell you, I have a phone with 5G. 5G is around. I get 5G in Roselawn, so I don't know if you get it in homemakers. I've been driving around town saying, hey, where do we have 5G? Because that starts giving me an indication, hey, are they coming into these neighborhoods or do they have coverage?
Can I ask you a question? So the Telecommunications Act talks about the right to put 5G devices and structures within the right-of-way.
Yep.
And our code...
On utility poles.
And on utility poles, okay. And our code doesn't address these regulations.
That's right.
Currently. And you're looking to update the code to come into compliance with Federal Telecommunication Act 5G. All right, so that gives us kind of the baseline. Now, who comes in? Now, are all of the different carriers able to come in and apply for 100 poles or devices on 20 poles?
Yeah, so Ramsey gave you the bad news. I'm going to be the good news guy today.
There's no good news, but go ahead, Ken.
There is good news. So we are able to do certain things with the local code. For example, we can, I'll say, encourage and maybe even mandate co-location of devices as long as it is workable for the 5G provider. We can keep the facilities and devices off of our historic landmarks, including our harp lamp poles. Really important, right?
Yeah.
And we've put that in. We can regulate to a certain extent the height of some poles, and we can also have them require them to sign a right-of-way license agreement, which will provide for a little beyond with our consultant in Pittsburgh on a couple issues. To put as much control in there as we can. Another reason we have to amend the local code, our town code, is because really there's just a lot of new terminology, small cell facility and, and stuff that just doesn't exist under our existing telecommunication regulations. So we really need to provide this regulation because we don't want Verizon, et cetera, and Verizon's going to be our first one.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
We don't want Verizon, et cetera, to be coming in and just putting these facilities in without any kind of real cogent regulation on our part. I will also say that part of our process was getting comments from Verizon and listening to their comments and understanding what they were. And I can't say that we've made any adjustments at this point in time. There were
A few things, but
right.
yeah.
We're scheduled at the town board for a public hearing on this for
The 28th.
July 28th. Terrific. One more thing on the July 28th calendar. And so really, I mean, the town board is looking to the planning board to provide any comments on this, concerns, et cetera, that it could take into consideration going into that public hearing on July 28th. That's sort of where we are.
What I would do is, if I could, is I could draft up a quick letter. I don't know if you have something, let me know. There is guidelines in our code for you to follow. It talks about a compliance with the comprehensive plan, any issues that you may see that you may want to call out. I do think it's good that we are becoming in compliance with the Federal Communication Act.
Yeah.
I think it's good to have 5G.
Yeah.
From an economic standpoint.
Right.
So it's a balance.
Yeah.
We're developing a working relationship with Verizon. They know that we're very protective of our neighborhoods. They understand that all of our utilities are in the backyard. I did really try to get them, could you work with the utility poles in the backyard? And they're like, nope, don't have to, not going to.
They said what? I'm sorry.
He said, no, we don't have to, and we're not going to. We have the right to be in the right-of-way, and we only have to pay you X amount. It's a lot cheaper for us.
All right, so
So that's kind of, but they do understand the sensitivities, so we'll see how that goes. They've been fairly patient with us while we have reviewed and prepared these draft ordinances.
So is there a chance I could have a new pole with a microcell on top of it in the tree lawn between the curb and sidewalk of my house?
Yeah, right where you put that patio in.
Isn't there something
I
about
gotta-
backyards and not front
better
yards or
plant a
something
tree
though in what
quick.
is drafted?
No, you couldn't go there.
Oh.
We don't have a right to do that. They have a right to be in our right of way.
And the town is able to collect a revenue source off of this?
No. I mean, yes, there is, but it's federally mandated.
Okay.
And it's not a lot of money.
All right, so
What's it based on? What's the fee based on?
What is it based on? It's based on federal regulations that tell us exactly how much the maximum is we can
It's not based
charge.
on certain costs that the town has to incur or that.
It's like it's in the code. It's like $50 an application. I mean, it's something. It's something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's you lose. We're not going to make money on it.
Oh, God.
It's not a money maker by any means. It's really, it's a tough one.
The bone.
It's a token.
Very small.
all right, but I think from an economic development standpoint, we want to encourage it, right?
No, we do. You do need to get it. Right now, we're going
We
to
need-
start
we-
with them with the major arterials
Yeah.
and try to get them to do it like before you get into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
But But when you have these trees, which is our fame in this in our neighborhoods, we're gonna be going into the neighborhoods, and we talked with them about trying to put them like on corners. And in the guidelines have like certain distances from one another, and if you go through the design manuals, we do try to minimize where they could put it, but you can't affect their service either.
Okay, I just think that, you know, there will be design issues, there will be, you know, concerns of how it affects, you know, the character of the neighborhoods. But I think that is matched equally by the benefit of the technology being in Brighton, and that somehow not having the service becomes a differentiator in economic development. You don't, you know, want someone going to Victor or Henrietta because they've got 5G in place and they're more friendly toward it. And
Yeah, no.
And you know, it's an equity issue as well, that, you know, we have it in all parts of the town near our multifamily housing as well as our single-family detached neighborhoods.
Yep. So that's what we have. I'll draft something. I just wanted to talk with you. I'll do a quick letter.
Yeah.
Try to get it off to you guys, take a quick look, and then send it off to the town board, if that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read all the stuff. It's good.
And do you want
Signs?
comments by?
What's that?
You want comments by the end of this week, next week?
No, I'm gonna write a draft and
Oh,
then
you
send it
did.
out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Believe me, it's not gonna be much. It's like one of my boilerplate letters.
Did we
No,
table
74.
7P0321, the Epod?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we did.
We tabled that one.
All right.
Yes.
We actually made
Jason
a
got
decision.
all upset about him. They got me going.
Karen,
It's every time.
it's, so $500 permit fee, but it covers 5 small cell facilities. So it's $100 facility.
Oh, I thought
And then
that
for
was
each
it, though.
facility beyond that, it's another $100. So they
Wow.
pay one fee, $500 covers, so basically, I wasn't,
It's a
50, not
token.
50, 100, a whole $100.
Great.
Yeah.
So what am I supposed to leave in here, in this folder that they pick up? Their staff reports have to stay in?
No, the only thing that has to stay in there is the folder itself and some of the pencils.
Oh, they can have all the pencils they want,
Take the
but I can
pencils.
take everything else.
I'm not putting anything
Yeah.
past
Oh,
him.
Yeah.
I thought Nancy was telling me, take everything home.
Yeah, throw, yeah.
Because I wrote comments on my stuff here.
Signs.
Yeah, I got
Signs, oh, they're all approved.
I just want to give you these.
He's done.
This is my favorite
done.
part.
I like the signs because I'm interested in the signs. I drive around and look at every single one. It's fun.
You're not gonna like signs after.
Well, I'm new, I'm the newbie.
Not offensive.
Be gone in 2 months anyway.
What's that? Yeah, right.
I know when they changed the font, you know, like they got beauty bar has small b.
Yeah, that's
everything.
why I was,
Let's see.
That seems kind of weird, but
I thought so too.
whatever, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
It's hard to read at 40 miles an hour.
Is there a motion to approve as presented?
Motion
So
to,
moved.
so moved, there you go.
Got
Babcock Steiner.
Second, yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Application 618.
Oh, this is the Metro Park one that didn't come to the board
Yeah.
tonight.
What is that? Kasana? Oh, yeah. Actually,
Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
So moved.
Motion, and Babcock on the second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we got an interesting one, 1619.
Yeah, I saw the letter of
Yeah,
this. I was
something she
like,
wasn't happy about it.
And then her landlord didn't.
They reviewed too. They were preferring the black one, the architectural review board, so they were okay with either of them, but this is the one that was approved. They wrote a letter saying, hey, my landlord is saying I can't have that one. Would you guys consider this one, which was also reviewed by the ARBs? And I said, I'll take it to the planning board.
I prefer that one.
Mm.
The other signs there are white background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's fine.
Yeah.
I thought it would be
Yep.
okay. That's why I put it on the agenda. Okay, so, sign 1619 is approved as resubmitted. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
At Coxstein. Okay, you all right?
Do we
Okay,
have to say
sign,
aye on that?
1620.
He's
This
moving
is not
across,
the best
he's moving across the
He's
street.
moving across
Yeah.
the street and he's going
Yeah,
where
where's he,
Belgium was.
oh, that's where he's going.
Who is this?
Yeah,
What
this,
is this
this
again?
graphic didn't,
Yeah, that, it's
Oh,
not, these
okay.
graphics aren't great, but
No.
you can look at
Bill
the
gets
sign.
all his suits.
Why not be next to man, right?
Bad graph.
hey, he's even more expensive than,
We're almost done.
We're still on.
Okay.
thank you.
Okay, and that was
1620.
1620.
1620, and that was approved as presented. Do I have a motion open?
Yes, you have a motion.
Second,
Second by Price, I think it was.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Approved as presented.
Then we get to the big boy.
Okay. This is interesting. This guy's is really coming along.
It is,
Which
looks,
one is this?
This is, the.
Oh, okay.
remember
Yeah.
the
This is-
orthodontist company?
this is, oh, wait, this part isn't done, but the orthodontist
No,
is
yeah,
done.
And they got approval for the rest of the plaza, but they're going with Velco.
Helvetica, yeah.
Velco is the tenant signs.
That's not Helvetica.
I think that's what they're saying, is the condition is to,
Oh, to tenant will
To
follow.
change it.
Oh, change it all to Helvetica. Okay.
Okay, and but then, they want to keep, they're planning to have the pump for Brighton Commons,
okay.
just to keep like the traditional
Yeah.
pump letters.
And that's why they want it to Helvetica.
What's that called? What's that
Because
called?
Helvetica's going to look better with the
What's
pump.
that called?
You mean
Pump?
with the tall B?
Yeah, I think that's called pump,
Oh,
but you know,
That's why they're
Mr.
switching to
Buckman-
Helvetica.
okay, fine.
Well, no, that's why they're switching to Helvetica, because the serif font that's currently under tenant signage doesn't work well with Brighton Commons, but Helvetica will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So that was.
I like fonts.
Now,
That was approved with conditions.
I still want to make sure this thing disappears.
Okay.
Don't make me go down there at midnight with a
And then we have
sledgehammer.
the conditions.
retired, he'll
Number
do it.
12, right now.
The conditions are approved with conditions. The tenant font will be Helvetica. Any required variance should be obtained, and all illegal signs shall be removed.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh,
Yes.
nice.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
All in-
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
With conditions. Conditions. You were done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have
We
any
should clap for
questions?
you.
I don't know how she kept
I think the Olympics just started.
You have a number?
No.
Okay.
Peter, we're done.
Here we go.
Thank you, everybody.